sold a website to an electronics store. I wasn't interested in the classes. Precious time. It was a concierge service for college kids. I hired 8 different delivery drivers. I just saw an opportunity to build something that I felt should exist. I wanted to get into the entrepreneurship school. I'll let you take business classes this semester. If you don't get above a 3.0 GPA this semester, delegating responsibilities, whatever it took to get that GPA of a 3.334, went right back to a 2.8 in business school. Build things while you're there.
Absolutely.
So you can apply your learning. It just was like, it wasn't scalable, the foundation for everything. My uncle's recruiting agency in Manhattan, they kicked my ass. You know what I mean? They treated me like a 19-year-old kid. I acted like a 19-year-old kid. Be responsible about your work, how to think about teamwork, how to collaborate. When you're not used to understanding the cycle of failure,
yes,
that could be a very painful lesson when you don't know success yet. I fell in love with the problem space of recruiting. I hated the day-to-day job. You know, I'm someone who has to do lots of different things, and I was bored as hell at the time. But really about bridging the gap between local businesses to those college campuses. Like the business model to this date makes a ton of sense. Started to build a blog called The Campus Socialite, and it took off. I felt like the content got watered down. I moved home so I could save money. Started working close to Hofstra University, and we'd work with brands like Axe, Toyota Scion, where we'd go to massive football weekends and throw a party and a concert we call Blitz and Beats. College competitive food eating competition.
There you go.
Yeah, we were profiting, but not enough. The thing that was bothering me weren't leveraging tech to scale. We didn't make money while we slept. So we were just like hitting a wall. Never really figure out the business model. Sold it and moved on. Saw Google Glass. I thought that was the most powerful idea of introducing technology into your physical space. Building applications for digital eyewear, and the only thing I was interested in was enterprise. Someone could literally just nod their head when they grabbed it to check off that it was completed. I went to 2 different farms. The barcode, it would tell them the last time they were medicated, what medication and when they need to be medicated next. We used those 2 prototypes to then go out and raise what was my first effort of raising venture funding. Paid for 9 months basically.
Yeah.
And there is no investor market for that. Tim Draper.
Sure.
And Tim is the kind of person who sees vision.
I think that most venture capitalists would see vision.
But they also want to see practical,
Indeed.
a path to practical adoption. Tim joined as our lead investor.
Okay.
And we took that momentum and raised almost 2.7 million. And
Are there problems with raising too much money?
I think you need every dollar when you're trying to experiment. We became one of Google Glass's premier enterprise partners, being a device management platform. Because us not seeing eye to eye on where the company would go, his decision was, all right, I'm going to do this on my own. Of challenge or adversity, personally, when I had to face that, it made me reflect, it made me dig in, it made me to seek growth. 5 days later, I started running around talking about an idea I had. Seed of Wade and Wendy, automating the recruiting process. 30 to 60 days, my ending with one company, I had a 4-person team working on my couch. Constant was that they all had very similar conversations as part of their process. You know, gathering requirements from a hiring manager. When these conversations had to take place, their job could not scale. Apps and products that were frictionless, that were designed to your workflow. Saying, hey, I'm Wendy, I'm a chatbot.
Right.
Being the chatbot, you say you're a bot. Would people even open up their conversation to them?
Sure.
And immediately it blew my mind. People thought they were talking to a machine. They spent 45 minutes to an hour talking about their career. The data that we got from these conversations was better in 45 minutes, more data than anyone had in LinkedIn after 7 years. 93 investors and ended up closing 13. When we started this idea, I had to go out and fundraise. People saw the vision.
Huh?
They saw the vision and potential.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 4 of my investors from my last company follow me into this company.
Right. So I think that right there
Helped, of course.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, it didn't help me find a lead. The minute we got the lead again, everything followed. We ended up almost 3.9 million. It was a seed investor, which is the largest recruiting firm in the world. I've always found it really beneficial to work with corporate venture funds, to just experiment with real enterprise customers. And she'll invite them to a chat. It'll be role specific. It'll be dynamic. It can, and you're going to build out kind of a richer profile about this candidate. And then the recruiter has this has a ton of relevant context to be able to make decisions. It's about replacing humans. It's about collaboration between humans and machines. The repetitive work so that people can work on the parts of their job that they actually love doing. We work with some really great companies like E-Trade. I'm learning new things about this candidate. I wouldn't have even interviewed this person just on their resume. Ability to evaluate talent.
Yeah.
And that's really where we started really doubling down on our data science effort.
Yeah.
And we were able to have consistent conversations and build up data and start to learn about conversation design. We have this pipeline for you that's qualified, interested, and available. We started showing real value to clients. We have 63 open roles that we haven't received any candidates on at all. In 2 weeks, we ended up submitting about 325 qualified, interested candidates to the roles. They told us that it would have taken them 16 recruiters full time to be able to deliver those results in 2 weeks. It's about execution for us. The way I think about competition is they're useful as a way to learn. Invest everything into experimentation, and I can learn things from things that are working or not. I am very happy to have other people out there spending money testing and validating ideas. It's to build a relationship with their own kind of personalized recruiter for themselves. I've been meditating about 3 years ago to be able to catch that and bring myself back to the reality of the facts and to make that decision before reacting. I've had coaches also. I think actually every entrepreneur should have one. We're an enterprise chatbot or also mid-market. We're a growing company, really trying to hire.
WadeandWendy.ai.
WadeandWendy.ai.
Welcome to Startup Hunter, also streaming on YouTube. I'm here at Wade and Wendy. Look at this, it's a real startup. And Wade and Wendy is an AI recruiting chatbot. This is Drew Austin, CEO and founder of Wade and Wendy. So come with me and let's walk and talk.
Sure.
So Drew, what I want to know is, where were you born? What did your parents do?
All right, so I was born in Merrick, Long Island, so about 45 minutes away from here.
Sure.
And my father owns a drugstore and pharmacy in Brooklyn. He's a pharmacist, and my mother was a teacher but became a stay-at-home mom because I was too much work.
My first job, actually, 14 years old, I was delivering pharmaceuticals from a Manhattan drugstore. So were you
Real pharmaceuticals or?
real real pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Were you doing that? Were you helping your dad out?
Yeah, I used to go in on Sundays. I was bored to heck. I couldn't stand sitting in the store all day. But it was interesting to do transactions with people, use the register, see how I guess kind of had my first experience of money changing hands.
Yes.
So it was interesting, but my dad would always give me shit for falling asleep at the store because I was getting bored after a few hours.
Right. And I have a very similar personality, so I can't sit still.
Nope, me either. That's for sure.
So what was the first entrepreneurial thing you ever did? Did you sell lemonade? Did you sell pickles? What's on your own outside your dad's store?
Yeah, no, the first thing I can really remember, I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. I remember back in the day when it was very easy to build websites of if you just knew HTML and CSS. And most companies didn't have websites yet. It was a completely new landscape of the internet.
Give me a year.
Oh God, maybe 93, 95.
Sure.
Mid 90s.
So when people were just moving off of AOL.
Yes.
This
was still the AOL day. This was the AIM Prime AOL day. This is when we were all making. There was chat rooms and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So I remember I went to Roosevelt Field Mall in Long Island, and I sold a website to an electronics store for $100 and made him a static website to promote his store online.
Now, did you build it on GeoCities?
Oh shit, you're probably right. Yeah.
You had free hosting.
With the spinning little graphics and no, that was what we did. And
Fantastic.
Yep. So that was probably my first.
Now, did you have more than one customer? Was that your only customer?
Only customer. It was my dad brought me for the day. I walked store to store, trying to sell someone on building a website, and got one, sold it, did it, and that was the history of my first website development and my only web development project I've ever done.
Still, I mean, the process of just cold calling, that must have rubbed off on you, the process of sales and cold calling.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm creative from an idea perspective. That was the first time I got to kind of utilize it, but my real first business was in college.
So talk about that. You go to college in New York?
Yeah, I went to college at Syracuse. I started as an arts and sciences major. My mom was like, go be a lawyer. You talk a lot.
Yeah.
And when I got there, the school did not inspire me. I wasn't interested in the classes. I just kind of got by and enjoyed the social component of college.
Right.
And which I totally value. And about a year and a half in, I kind of saw an opportunity. You know, I was in a fraternity. I was around a lot of wealthy people. I had a lot of wealthy friends. Like, you know, I came from a middle class family, but some of the wealth you'd see at Syracuse University, a private school, was like wealth that was kind of almost eye-opening.
Yeah.
You know, and with that wealth came like certain types of tastes and appreciation or wants of things that were above the normal standards of college, what you expect from college kids.
Yes.
So about the summer going into my junior year, I started Precious Time was the name of the company.
Cool. What did Precious Time do?
And it was a concierge service for college kids.
And
We did restaurant delivery, laundry, pickup, house cleaning, wake-up calls, tutoring. Kids could go on the website, book a service. We made relationships with all the different vendors in the college campus. And instead of just getting Domino's, you can get like Dinosaur Barbecue
now,
delivered.
what was the aha moment? How did it come to you? Like, I gotta do concierge. Was it a conversation?
So many times of saying, I wish we can get good food delivered. Because
Yeah.
only the places that delivered back then were like the Domino's and Pizza Hut and Pita Pit.
Right, this is before, there was a time,
Yes.
before Grubhub, before Uber Eats.
This is what people call this nowadays. Like my friends from college, they'll reach out to me now and be like, dude, you started a Postmates before Postmates.
Right.
Because it was very similar. We had I hired 8 different delivery drivers, all from my freshman year floor. Obviously, I could not hire anyone from my fraternity because I could never rely on those guys. But my freshman year floor, I pretty much hired 8 people, and we had 8 delivery drivers and 4 operations managers in the office.
Now, how did you, how did it come to you that this should be a business, that you should have a team? Like, did it start with one and then?
So it's interesting. Actually, so the idea just looked like an opportunity for me. That's all. I don't know if I understood what that meant yet. I don't think it was almost a little bit startup. Like the startup founder concept of being cool. Like that thing really wasn't really big yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just saw an opportunity to build something that I felt should exist. Simple as that. And
So you
then
built it.
So we built. So I first one thing I got something out the door, built it, got it started. I actually, a kid from my high school who I wasn't really that close with during high school, went to Syracuse University, and he ran a web development company. I shot him a message, met him for a meeting, and he built our platform.
For free? Did you pay him?
A couple grand.
Yeah.
And so he built the website. I had a friend of mine do the design and build the logo. And the rest, we just kind of, I went around, I hired a couple people, my freshman year roommates, a couple of my buddies from college, and I had an office, like kind of executive team.
Yeah.
And we kind of went from there. So we got started. Our claim to fame was we were the first company that was ever legally in contract able to deliver food from Dinosaur Barbecue.
There you
So that was
go.
kind of cool. So we got that started, and after the first semester doing it, I was really enjoying it, but I wanted to learn more.
Okay.
So I went to the dean, and I wanted to get into the entrepreneurship school. There was an entrepreneurship major. It was a top 3 entrepreneurship major program in the country. But you needed to have a 3.0 or 3.2 or whatever it was GPA to get in.
And you didn't have that?
No, I didn't have that.
Because you were running a company.
I had 2.7 GPA. College was like school was just like whatever I had to do to get by. It wasn't interesting to me. I didn't find arts and sciences classes relevant for me. If I could, if I can get by, I was happy. That was it. That was it. There was no other incentive to excel in school for any reason.
Sure.
So basically, I made a deal with the head of Whitman School of Management, and they said, listen, they knew I had a business started, so they were excited about that.
Yeah.
Because this is an entrepreneurship program, and to be able to talk about a student starting a company was a big deal for them. They said, listen, we're going to give you an office space in the school, because right at that time we were working out of my friend's attic in the cold Syracuse.
Yeah.
That we had a whole office. She had an attic. It was huge, but we were working out of this attic space in her apartment, in her house off campus. That was our first office. And so I made a deal with this Whitman school. He said, listen, I'll let you take business classes this semester. If you don't get above a 3.0 GPA this semester, the credits will not count, and you won't be allowed into the school, and you'll have to take an extra semester to graduate from the Arts and Sciences program.
So was that must have been an incentive for you to at least do a little better?
Exactly. So that semester, I think I got about a 3.3, 3.4.
Oh, okay, you did much better.
I got, just enough. Well, did whatever I took to get in.
Yeah.
I had my pledges working around the clock. I was delegating responsibilities, whatever it took to get that GPA of a 3.3, 3.4. Got into the Whitman School of Management, got into the business school, and went right back to a 2.8 in business school, but I started to learn.
Right.
And that to me was what was most important. I was taking classes like business marketing, business law, accounting, finance, like learning how to like segment or build customer personas or segment your market. Things that like, when you can't apply them to anything, it's really hard to absorb. We learned how to build a business plan. We had a whole business plan competition that I was a part of. Like even working on understanding how to build a business plan helped me so much to apply things from my company.
Yeah.
So I had this real platform to apply education in real time to. But other than that, like to me, again, school was a social device.
Yes.
It was a networking tool. And like when people say a kid shouldn't go to college, I couldn't disagree with that more. Because like there is no time in your life where you're going to be around such a tight group of your demographic, 18 to 22-year-old college kids, all interested, whether it's nuanced differences, but really all interested in the same things out of life. That experience is impossible to replicate anywhere else in the world. So for me, I believe in college from that perspective. And then whatever you get out of it, I mean, to me, I would say go do something that you like. Do if you're a MIS major or a CS major, build things while you're there.
Absolutely.
So you can apply your learning. If you're an entrepreneurship major, build things while you're there.
So how did your college business, did you grow that into a real business? How did that come to an end?
So we did it for 2 years, my junior year and senior year of college. It wasn't huge, but we had a solid, repetitive customer base.
Only local.
Only Syracuse University.
Got it.
It paid for my spring break, and I got laundry for free and house cleaning, and whenever I got food delivered, it was delivered whenever I needed it. So for me, it was the perfect college business. When I tried to look into scaling it out, kind of like looking to see if I could do this at other college campuses, it was hard for me to see other college students being able to replicate this business model, especially without my hands-on management.
Sure.
So it never seemed like at that time it was something I could scale.
Right.
Also, we were using, this was also even before, I remember we weren't even having, we had to pay with cash. Not everyone there was no mobile apps for payment to people. I don't even remember if we had Google Maps at the time.
No, we didn't.
So we were running around with Blackberries. So for us, it just was it wasn't scalable, but it taught me, it was the most entrepreneurial experience. It was the foundation for everything that I've ever done.
So you graduate college, and what was the next step for you? Or you didn't graduate?
So I interned every summer at my uncle's recruiting agency. So, this way? Or where'd you want to go?
Let's keep going to the river.
Cool. Okay. So I used to intern during the summers at my uncle's recruiting agency in Manhattan. And kind of an opportunity for me to see what it was like to work in an office.
Yes.
It was another great experience for me. They kicked my ass. You know what I mean? They treated me like a 19-year-old kid. I acted like a 19-year-old kid, but it taught me a lot about, kind of how to communicate with professionals, how to, be responsible about your work, how to think about teamwork, how to collaborate, how to see how different types of managers operate, I looked at my uncle, who was the CEO of the company, as someone I could kind of emulate and learn a lot from, take a lot from. So to me, that was another really valuable learning experience were those internships. Then when I got out of college, listen, the people that I knew at that recruiting firm were making a ton of money. Recruiting was in its prime back then. So I said, okay, well, I'm out of school. I took the summer off when I graduated, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. But when I sat down with my uncle, I talked about it, and he said, let's get started. And I took the job.
Yeah.
And that was my first job out of college.
So you went to work for your uncle.
Yep. And
What was your actual? Once you had.
I was a recruiter, executive recruiter focusing on technology recruiting. So.
And what year are we talking about?
What year was this? This was right around the crash.
Like the 2001 crash?
No, it's like the 2007 crash. So it was around 2007.
So that mostly affected real estate more than tech.
It affected jobs for sure.
Yeah, finance
And jobs and all that kind of stuff. So, it was a weird time to jump into recruiting when no one's hiring.
But I think it's a great time because, if you can make it during a time like that, then you can really make it.
Sure. But it also could be looked at as a time where when you're not used to understanding the cycle of failure,
Yes.
that could be a very painful lesson when you don't know success yet.
Indeed.
So it was a tough period. But the fact was like what I saw there really quick. I fell in love with the problem space of recruiting. I really liked the idea of helping understand how to build teams and companies. And that's what recruiting is. You have to find people to build teams and build great products and build companies. So I got to kind of scratch the curiosity itch and learn a lot about lots of different businesses. But and the business model made a ton of sense. I hated the day-to-day job. I felt like a robot. It was repetitive. It was robotic. It was I had to do the same thing every day. And for me, that really messed with my chemical makeup.
Okay.
I'm someone who has to, do lots of different things and work on lots of different things and do different things every day. And to do the same thing every day, it really just it gave me weird anxieties and
Now, were you out in the field recruiting, or were you mostly at a desk?
Mostly office.
Yeah.
People would come in, but yeah, it was like technology-based recruiting. You're doing a lot of cold calling, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that was.
So there was like a formula building up for maybe burnout or unhappiness.
I just was frustrated every day.
So how long did you last there?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yep.
And what'd you do after that?
One of my buddies from high school called me one day, and he had this whole idea. He was like, "Hey, I saw what you did during college, and I was thinking about starting something similar." And I was bored as hell at the time. I was like, maybe I should just help you do this. So I was like, let's start doing this together. I was like, I started as the CEO. He started as the COO.
So you reignited your college business.
In a way, yes. We
Okay.
started it. So we started with the college business idea, and then it kind of morphed and evolved very quickly. So what we did was we started by just writing content, creating a blog.
Okay.
It was called the Campus Socialite. It was because we knew that what we wanted to do was build this kind of Postmates for college kids, try to make it more scalable, but really about bridging the gap between local businesses to those college campuses and connecting them. What I learned while I was at Precious Time was that I got paid a service fee from college students, that was great, but what I was doing was helping to market the services and the vendors to an audience that they were in desperate need to reach, and they had no idea how. So I was making money on both sides of things. The college kids would pay a fee for the service, but the vendor would give us a percentage for bringing in business to them. And not only that, I was starting to have businesses pay us to even go further and promote their service. So we started out having these kind of we had about 3 different revenue streams when all was said and done, and we were starting to build real businesses. It makes the business model to this date makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. But logistics is a very hard side of things, obviously, as we know.
So you started doing content and blogging.
We started blogging. I got 2 other of my buddies from high school, built up a team, 4 of us, and we started to build a blog called the Campus Socialite, and it took off.
Now, why do you think it took off? Was there a specific piece of press?
No, it was just creating consistent content every day, and then understanding how to build content, understanding in the early days of blogging and social media, how to build a content syndication network. And what that meant was, I remember we went to we were in a meeting at the IAC building with College Humor and Bro Bible and I don't think Barstool was there at the time, but Uprocks and Heavy, all the like, and it was us, like Campus Social, a startup that was like, me and my 4 buddies, all in this room talking about strategies that how we can collaborate to promote content to get more visibility. Now,
Sure.
for me, the thing that made me crazy was I hated the business model of digital media content. I hated building a business where the only thing that you monetized was eyeballs, because I thought it was, and I still to this day think it's the worst concept. I think it's the flaw of digital media, is the fact that like, if you want to create great content and it's too heavily influenced by advertising, those ideas conflict. When we first started and didn't care about making $1, our content was awesome. I loved it. But as we had to start bringing in advertisers and thinking about advertisers or doing sponsored content or whatever it was at the time to drive revenue, I felt like the content got watered down. The only company that I've ever seen really do it well and maintain their voice, and their voice became something advertisers said, you know what, we're behind this, not all, but some, Barstool. I think Barstool does it very, very well.
Yeah.
To me, they're the most innovative, and they executed my vision in terms of like what I saw as something a long time ago, as building a digital media platform that is a vehicle to drive other businesses and verticals and revenue drivers. So we, so we started with the blog.
See if we can hit the road.
Yes, then we started at, we found an office in Long Island. I moved home so I could save money, and left the city. Started working close to Hofstra University. Got a bunch of college students. We had about 10 students to work with us as interns.
And they were producing content or helping?
Content or marketing, events. We started to build this marketing agency.
Yep.
It started to shift from a concierge service. We dropped that because we didn't see the scale, and the logistics were a nightmare. And what we focused on was what companies were paying us for, which was helping them reach the college student demographic.
Yes.
So this blog became the vehicle for a college marketing agency. And we'd work with brands like Axe, Toyota Scion.
Now, were you going around to all the 3,000 college campuses across the United States?
We were all over the place. So we built lots of different types of what I would call assets to monetize. So we had the blog. We had this tour called the Blitz and Beats tour.
Yeah.
Where we'd go to massive football weekends and throw a party and a concert at a tailgate. A concert and a tailgate. So we call it Blitz and Beats. So we would get really popular DJs or rappers or artists, throw concerts and big tailgates.
Yeah.
And had our advertisers be able to sponsor these events while they were also sponsoring blog content.
Yes.
Because I just didn't believe in just digital media as the only driver of revenue or influence of marketing.
Right, you want something tangible.
So, they'd be able to give out promo items, have booths, have stations, like do fun activations and come up with creative ideas. So we had this marketing agency now, we had the digital media platform, we started doing videos, tons of video really early on. Like we had the we did the college competitive food eating competition.
There you go.
And we had all 6 different colleges compete, we videoed that. Like we did some really cool, innovative things. I think what I learned, and then after a while I started to get a little bit, I did that for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
But I couldn't figure out.
Did it make a profit?
We were profiting, but not enough.
Okay.
It was really like a lifestyle business.
Yes.
16 people, growing slowly. So we started to get it, we started to be like, listen, if this is gonna go anywhere, we need to build something that can scale. This is not the best spot for us here.
Now let's just hang on for a few seconds.
Yeah, pause it for a minute.
Okay, so your campus socialite, you had 16 employees. Financially, you weren't.
We were paying ourselves dog shit.
You weren't paying yourselves well. Not a huge attention to the financial health of the company. But you still were. Oh, you said you raised?
We raised a friends and family round.
In the beginning?
Oh, about 2 years in.
Yeah.
So this is actually not a bad spot. We can hang out here. So we raised a friends and family round. My uncle invested. My partner's uncle invested.
And this is after you had proven revenue.
We proved revenue. We proved we had something cool, but we did not have a business model yet.
Yes.
And we said, listen, we're gonna burn. We got to start to like. For me, I kept the thing that was bothering me was that we weren't leveraging tech to scale. So there was no. I'm trying to figure out where to go here. Sorry. So we weren't leveraging technology to scale. So like our business was based on margins. How much would we bill an account manager or a blogger or a social media manager? And the margin of that was like, we didn't make money while we slept. It was an agency.
Yeah.
So it was just like eating at me. So we started to say, okay, maybe we experiment with some tech products. And like, you know, for us, like our team didn't have that expertise. So what we knew was marketing. What we knew was content. What we knew was activations. But we didn't have a product org or tech org.
Yes.
But we started to experiment with technology to see if we could build platforms that can make us more scalable or more valuable. And at that time, I started to realize the other thing is that we built a team of basically all of our friends. It was a college marketing agency.
Yeah.
And like we couldn't pay much. When we started, we bootstrapped the business. So like it was really for 2 years, it was whoever needed a job, come get one.
Yep.
And that was how we got started. So, but what we missed was complementary skill sets, or people that thought about the problem in unique ways, or had experience from media and seen and understood how to scale. So we were just like hitting a wall.
You said you did some tech experiments. What were those?
We built products into the blog. We built out a gamification system. We built out an app that could manage college student influencers to do activities on campus.
Now,
basically,
back then, influencers is not the same really
No.
as it was today.
it was basically like, well, this was also, again, a lot of this stuff was really ahead of its time, but it was basically like trying to build a platform for the gig economy. Because what we were saying was college students wanted to get experience and build their resume and earn some extra bucks.
Yes.
And companies wanted them to do things to promote their brand. So we built an app that would put campaigns through, like Axe wanted to do people to hand out, samples, or if someone wanted to do an event, we would put these little activations through this app, and kids can grab that and run the activation and earn and almost like build their resume in the process.
Now, of all these technology experiments, what do you think worked the best?
The blog.
Yeah.
Just the media, continuing to grow the media platform.
Okay.
And but at some point that was becoming a drain now because it wasn't profiting.
Yes.
So the thing that was making us money was the agency, but it was a low profit margin kind of business. And the thing that was losing us money was really our core, the product, which was our blog.
Yeah.
So we had so many really cool ideas. We were working with an early kind of Netflix, a company that worked with indie studios and built out independent TV shows and movies called Coldcast. And we would syndicate their videos and TV through our platform. We were doing some really cool stuff. I thought we were really innovative in that regard.
Okay.
But we just can never really figure out the business model. So, it got to a point where, we started to realize it was hitting a wall. I started to get the itch to try to do something else. We got an offer of someone who wanted to buy our media platform, the blog. We sold it and moved on.
Yeah.
That's it.
So did you make a lot of money on that sale, or just sort of broke even?
Just enough to buy me some time to figure out my next thing.
Yes. So what was the next thing you figured out?
So I started. This was right around the time when Google Glass was announced to the world.
Yes.
And when you think back to what I was always, what I was working on for the 4 years in college, they announced Google Glass, and for me it was kind of interesting because with Campus Socialite and the Convos, which was the marketing agency, we were always really fascinated with the idea of bridging the physical and digital world. So we had a blog for digital and social, but then we also had experiential events out of the business. We wanted to connect physical and digital. And when I saw Google Glass, I thought that was the most powerful idea of introducing technology into your physical space. like to have access to information in your field of view without having to go to a phone and remove yourself from your present position, or you're being present with whatever was around you, or to go to a computer. So that was incredibly powerful. And also, I originally had, I'm terrible with faces and names. And I thought to myself, like, the only way you can ever solve the problem of not remembering someone's name when you see their face is by having an ability to look at someone and in your field of view, be told their name.
Yeah.
Because any other way, you'd have to like go and create friction between the process of going to say hello.
Yes.
And so I was like, what can possibly do that? And again, like this was me not knowing anything about the tech. Just that idea alone helped me to be like, I gotta go look into this.
Okay, so well, what panned out? What did you do with Google Glass?
So I started meeting anyone who was working on it, or was talking about it, or was thinking about it. And there was one guy who was, I met through LinkedIn. I met him, I shot him a message, we ended up getting coffee. He told me that he's been working on digital eyewear way before Google Glass was even announced. With some of the earlier companies for 3 years, basically. But he was an ex-IBM guy, really didn't have the entrepreneurial experience, more management experience. So, but I thought that would, for me, I never worked at a company before, a corporate company. So I was like, it's a perfect compliment. I'm a startup guy, you're a corporate
product guy.
Corporate experience. And let's join up and do it. So
now, what was the idea? He had this tech. What was the actual
The idea
purpose?
that we wanted to work on was building applications for digital eyewear that were meant for the enterprise. Because if you remember, Google Glass was built for consumers to start. Everyone was out there talking about recipe apps and cooking apps, and very early on, the thesis that I had, and the only thing I was interested in was enterprise, because I felt that for this market to actually, for us to build anything that actually was going to gain any traction, we had to learn in the logistics or in the warehousing environments or in the enterprise space where we're paid to experiment and iterate instead of trying to get something popular without adoption of the platform.
Enterprise. What enterprises did you go after? Which companies?
So we started with kind of like our first prototype was pick and pack, inventory pick and pack. So you'd get an inventory, someone would say, hey, here's a massive warehouse, we need you to go get this item. And we knew the location of all the items. So right in your field of view, you'd get a notification of what the item was, an image of the item, and the location. And then someone could literally just nod their head when they grabbed it to check off that it was completed. And that was the user experience we built first. We sold a prototype to Toyota, actually. That was the first one.
How would Toyota use pick and pack?
They're warehouses. They're like in their environment.
Okay.
So anyway, so we built out a prototype, and
here's you having no enterprise experience.
This is my first tech.
How did you get in touch with Toyota? Because that's
we started pitching. We started selling. We just had relationships. My partner had a LinkedIn group of AR glasses. We were the early adopters in this industry. So if anyone was curious about it, you found us pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, I love it. So you're just like, we need to do enterprise. That's in theory, and then pretty quickly after, you actually have something practical.
Sold a prototype, used that money to actually build the prototype. That was the first thing we ever did, and we then took that prototype, sold another prototype. This one was to a spin-off of. This was a really cool use case, actually. This was to Zoetis, which is a spin-off of Pfizer that focuses on animal healthcare.
Yeah.
I went to 2 different farms, Pasco, Washington, and one in Indiana somewhere.
Yeah.
And what we did was we built out an application for them where they could walk up. They're wearing gloves and out in the field. They'd walk up to a cattle on the farm with a little barcode. They'd look at the barcode. It would tell them the last time they were medicated, what medication, and when they need to be medicated next. And once they gave the medication, they would then nod their head, update the record that it was completed, and move on.
Yeah.
Without having to use their hands.
And so did the farm pay for this?
Yeah, they built that. So the company Zoetis built that and paid us for the application. And we used those 2 prototypes to then go out and raise what was my first effort of raising venture funding.
Yeah, so how did that go?
9 months of trying to raise capital. I wasn't paid for 9 months, basically.
Yeah.
We went out and tried to pitch wearable applications for the enterprise, and there is no investor market for that because there's no idea what the hell that is.
Yeah.
So we just 9 months of pitching and iterating on the story until we got a meeting with Tim Draper.
Sure.
And Tim is the kind of person who sees vision, and appreciates an innovative idea.
You'd think that most venture capitalists would see vision.
But they also want to see practical, a path to practical adoption.
Yes.
And there were clear holes, like no doubt.
Yeah.
I remember we went back and forth with Tim and his team at
in California.
Yeah, with SF. I went to Sand Hill Road, pitched on in the valley and all of that kind of stuff. It was really my first time in SF.
Yeah.
It was like so inspiring for me because like Silicon Valley was like the start of tech.
Sure.
Or like what you dream about as a tech entrepreneur. And we were there pitching VCs and doing all that stuff. It was a really cool experience. And eventually Tim joined as our lead investor.
Okay.
And we took that momentum and raised almost 2.7 million in venture funding from not only great VCs, but also great corporate venture firms.
Yeah.
UPS, they have a venture arm, they invested.
Now, did Tim help you get UPS?
He helped open up doors, but really it's like once you start the momentum of fundraising and you close a lead, you use that momentum and you go out and get other investors.
Right, you go say we've raised
this much
500 grand of our, and we're did you have a specific target in mind? Or?
We originally wanted to set out to raise 1.5.
Yeah.
We did that, oversubscribed, and ended up raising 2.7.
Are there problems with raising too much money?
I mean, maybe, but I think you need every dollar when you're trying to experiment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell anyone not to.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we raised that first first venture round and started to build a team.
Now, before you raised, were these prototypes? Were you making a profit? Were these totally
one-offs? Everything was a one-off. Everything was a one-off. I mean, how could you even like build a scalable business when Google Glass was a prototype itself?
Sure.
So, I mean, we would do really cool applications. We showed UPS that we could scan their barcodes by just using their eyes, like in the snap of a finger, like completely seamlessly. But the battery would die 5 minutes later. So it's just like there was no way to really scale that.
How much of a team did you have before you raised the money? Was it just you and the other guy?
4.
Yeah. So some engineers.
A designer, and an intern, and then as we sold a prototype and hired an engineer, and then hired another engineer. Oh, sorry, we were 6 people actually when we raised funding.
Yeah. So you raised the money. What'd you do?
Built a team.
Yeah. And did you get some more clients?
Yeah, we pitched more clients.
Did you turn this into a business?
Yeah, of course. We started building. We became one of Google Glass's 5 premier enterprise partners.
Yeah.
We partnered with other digital eyewear companies.
What are these digital eyewear companies?
Vuzix.
I remember that.
Yep. There was others. ODG, I think it was called. And a few others.
And what did the business actually do?
So we started by just building apps. It was basically like apps for we were like almost like an app company for digital eyewear, because there was no real use case yet. And then what we realized was, and this was kind of it was also the beginning of the end of my partnership with my co-founder. We started to realize that if we wanted to build this business, we had to iterate beyond. We had to kind of expand our strategy beyond just digital eyewear, and to build something that would help drive adoption and facilitate adoption in the enterprise, not expect there to be adoption and build apps if it comes.
Yeah.
So the strategy we ended up coming up with was building a device management platform, because we realized that a lot of companies, if they wanted to adopt this technology, they needed security, they needed notifications, they needed user management, they needed battery control, they needed to know who had what, they need to know when things were need to be replaced. So we said, if we can build a platform that can manage glasses, watches, enable people to build apps and push information to and from these devices, but also have a layer of device management, it can allow drive adoption in the enterprise.
So this was your vision, but your co-founder didn't share it.
At the time, my co-founder was 4 or 5 years into this dream of augmented reality digital eyewear, and that created a lot of friction. And ultimately that kind of led to us not seeing eye to eye on where the company would go. And I woke up one day, and even though I was a co-founder, I was still the minority shareholder. His decision was, all right, I'm going to do this on my own.
Yeah.
And That was the most painful experience I had at that time, but also the best learning experience I've ever had.
So why was it the best learning experience that you've ever had?
Because the two most powerful learning experiences that I've had in the business world to date were both built on probably the most painful experiences that I've had to date. Because like when we faced that level of challenge or adversity personally, when I had to face that, it made me reflect. It made me dig in. It made me to seek growth. It made me to seek mentorship or help or advisory. And so that's why because probably the two hardest things I've ever faced in business both led me to the most growth personally as an entrepreneur.
And that's my final question. But so I assume Wade and Wendy is next.
Yes.
Here you are without a company.
Yep.
And you probably, did you ever say I'm gonna go work for somebody or?
Nope. 5 days later, I started running around talking about an idea I had.
Yeah.
5 days later.
A real natural born entrepreneur.
I started talking to anyone I could get my hands on to see if this idea had legs.
And what was the idea?
It was the idea of, it was the foundation and the seed of Wade and Wendy, which was automating the recruiting process that I did as a recruiter, and kind of had some creative spins to think about talent acquisition, but it was really like an automated recruiter. That's all it really was at its foundation. And I started talking to people about the idea. I went out to South by Southwest and I met one person who said, I want to join. I don't want to work on it with you. I went to CES, met someone else who said, I want to work on it with you.
Now, did you, for free? Did you say I'll give you some stipends?
It was it started as like an equity. They wanted to be part of a founding team. So I built a founding team basically.
And were they based in New York, or did you have to?
All of them were based in New York.
Okay.
So next thing I know, within about 30 to 60 days from my ending with one company, I had a 4-person team working on my couch in my apartment on the next thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So what was the first MVP of Wade and Wendy? And was it even called then Wade and Wendy?
No, it wasn't. It was called Recruit.
Recruit.
Recruit. W-E-Cruit.
That's
Instead of Recruit, it was Recruit.
That's sort of catchy too.
So we built, the first thing was we built a chatbot, which there was no such thing as chatbots back then either. Chatbot wasn't a thing yet. But what the vision was, we said, is like, when we looked at when I looked at the space, I started talking to a lot of recruiters. And I realized there was tons of tools out there, processes, everyone had their own unique workflow. But the constant that everyone, no matter what type of recruiter you were, the constant was that they all had very similar conversations as part of their process. Gathering requirements from a hiring manager, selling a candidate, screening an applicant, doing a reference check. No matter how many tools and systems, when these conversations had to take place, their job could not scale. So we said, coming from my experience with Google Glass, I wanted to design apps and products that were frictionless, that were designed to your workflow, and not had something you have to go to or open, just like something that was just part of your natural behavior. And if conversation was the foundation of a lot of their effort and job, how can we build a product or an application on top of the infrastructure of messaging? That was the inspiration. Started working on it, built a prototype. First day was me talking to people saying, hey, I'm Wendy, I'm a chatbot.
Right.
Being the chatbot, seeing if people would talk to a bot if I told them I'm a machine about their career.
Yeah, like
to validate that.
I've had a lot of other companies on this show, and the founders all pretend to be bots at first.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, we have to understand before we build anything. If you say you're a bot, would people even open up their conversation to them?
Sure.
And immediately it blew my mind. People thought they were talking to a machine. They spent 45 minutes to an hour talking about their career, completely felt unjudged, open, and comfortable. And the data that we got from these conversations was better in 45 minutes, more data than anyone had on LinkedIn after 7 years of having a profile.
Incredible.
So that was the beginning of an MVP, built out a prototype, went out.
What did the first prototype do? But beyond, what was the actual?
So the first application was, I wanted to replicate what I did as an agency-style recruiter.
Okay.
I found companies, they said, here's work on these jobs. I'd find candidates, I'd have them chat with a bot, and find out about them, and then I'd match them to a company and present them. That was it.
Yeah.
But so showed the data, showed all of that, pitched 93 investors, and ended up closing 13.
Now, before you pitched the investors, did you already have a business model and customers, or?
No, just a prototype.
And did the prototype have traction?
I mean, this was like, the minute we started this idea, I had to go out and fundraise. I mean, we were 30-year-old entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I had a 4-person team. People need to get paid.
And so you raised a round, right?
We raised around.
So here's the question.
People saw the vision.
Huh?
They saw the vision and potential
Yeah.
to disrupt a massive, massive industry with innovative technology and a new approach.
But do you think if you didn't have the background that you had
From the previous experience?
Yeah, right. So building a few other companies, do you think you would have had a different time raising?
Totally. I mean, I had 4 of my investors from my last company follow me into this company.
Right. So I think that right there
Helped, of course.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, it didn't help me find a lead. Still had to find a new lead.
Yeah.
Still pitched 93 investors. Was in full-time fundraising mode for about, 6 months.
Yeah.
And then the minute we got the lead again, everything followed. We ended up raising almost 3.9 million. About 3.9 million.
I thought it was only one. Well, Crunchbase only says 1.3.
So it was 1.5.
Yeah.
We oversubscribed. I was getting text messages of people saying, "Can I get in?" I was like, "No, we're closed." The next month, I just opened up a convertible note on top of it with a higher cap, and 2.4 more came in within another 3 months.
And when was the date of this?
I think we closed around October, around probably January 16, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, January 16.
It's about three years ago.
Yeah.
And
then we moved out of my apartment and started working.
So let's talk about the growth of the company. What was your first business model, or now?
So we started with that. I wanted to replicate that agency recruiter concept, and what we realized really quickly was getting hard to fill jobs and finding hard to find people to use to demonstrate the value and power of a chatbot, which is the ability to engage at scale, really wasn't aligned. So we needed to find a use case where we can show engagement at scale to prove the value and benefit of why chatbots belong in this workflow.
Okay.
And we closed a seed investor, which was probably the most important thing we did in the history of the company, which is the largest recruiting firm in the world.
Which is
Randstad.
Okay.
And
they're not really a tech warrant.
They have a corporate venture fund, and I've had 6 corporate ventures in my last 2 companies. Slack's an investor in this one. Randstad is an investor in this one. So I've always found it really beneficial to work with corporate venture funds.
Yeah.
So it turned out
really good strategic investors.
Yes. So for us, Randstad opened up a lot of doors for us early on to just experiment with real enterprise customers. And that also allowed us to kind of iterate our use case to building out the screening component to this, which was Wendy will integrate into your workflow. She will integrate with your applicant tracking system, and anytime somebody applies to your job, they'll get an invitation to kick off their interview process right away with Wendy. And she'll invite them to a chat. It'll be role specific, it'll be dynamic. It can, and you're gonna build out kind of a richer profile about this candidate. And then the recruiter has has a ton of relevant context to be able to make decisions or even have a further, deeper conversation about that applicant.
Okay, so there still is a human recruiter involved in the process.
Oh yeah, I'm a big believer that it's not about replacing humans. It's about collaboration between humans and machines, and enabling higher knowledge-oriented work, human work. Get the machine tasks out of the way.
Right, the repetitive
Yes.
stuff.
Automate the repetitive work so that people can work on the parts of their job that they actually love doing.
Yeah.
So that was really what we did.
So what was your first business model? Like where
We We sold customers the ability to say, hey, we'll pay you, we'll work as like almost like a recruiter on a job. You'll integrate us.
So was it a monthly contract?
They paid per job.
Yeah.
That we managed.
So per job
model.
Got it.
So from there, we deployed it. We worked with some really great companies like E-Trade. Was like our real early enterprise adopter, which was so big for us. And they were just like a perfect partner.
How many employees does E-Trade have?
Thousands, yeah.
Well, they have a huge tech team.
Yeah, bankers, consultants, financial consultants, financial advisors, all that stuff. And so we started there. And then we got some really great early feedback. So the recruiters were loving this ability to look at the transcript or the insights from a conversation and be able to say, wow, I'm learning new things about this candidate. I wouldn't have even interviewed this person just on their resume. But now seeing their answers to these questions, I actually want to bring them in. But the next thing they asked was, hey, for some of these roles where we're getting a lot of applicants, is there a way that you can take these what we're looking for, take their responses, and help recommend us where we should be spending our time, because I don't have time to interview 100 people. So that moved our focus to our second kind of core component of the platform, which was the ability to evaluate talent.
Yeah.
And that's really where we started really doubling down on our data science efforts.
Yeah.
So about leveraging our knowledge base to comprehend both a job description, the domain of a job, and understanding what the requirements or work involved with a job were, use that to facilitate a more informed conversation, but then also comprehend responses to be able to tell the recruiter, hey, this person has experience with some of the things you're looking for.
Yes.
So that was the next big release. From there, we got one more big piece of feedback, one which was, hey, we're loving Wendy to help us with screening, especially for these roles with high volume applicants. But in a market where unemployment is the lowest it's ever been,
yes,
and everyone's a passive job seeker now, there's not a ton of applicant flow on the majority of jobs. So they're like, is there any way Wendy can also help us to get more talent flow and increase our candidate pipeline? And to me, I always that was the kind of the circle of the vision for us, which was, I was an agency sourcer. I always knew that was the next feature for us. That's where I wanted to go anyway from the beginning. And now we've proven the value of a chatbot on this and the integration side, and we were able to have consistent conversations and build up data and start to learn about conversation design. So we were now ready to tackle what I would call the second product, which was sourcing. Going out and engaging talent, informing them about an opportunity, selling them on a role, and then finding out if they're interested. So now we have this pipeline for you that's qualified, interested, and available. It's basically recruiting on demand. That was the next big feature we released. That took off in terms of value. We started really being able to, this was released about 6 to 9 months ago. And we started showing real value to clients, substantial value.
Okay. And how do you measure that value?
So, a bunch of ways. So like one, we did with a Fortune 50 enterprise company, I'll give you like a 2-week, they came to us and said, hey, we have 63 open roles that we haven't received any candidates on at all. It's completely dead candidate flow. We're having a lot of trouble. Can you help us out? We used our platform, and within 2 weeks, we had about 785 chats with candidates about the roles, and we ended up submitting about 325 qualified, interested candidates to the roles. They told us that it would have taken them 16 recruiters full-time to be able to deliver those results in 2 weeks, or one recruiter about 32 weeks to do that. And it would have cost them, and they saved about $56,000 using us in those 2 weeks.
So what do you think about all the competition out there, from ZipRecruiter to LinkedIn to all the other old platforms? And do you even care about competition? Do you just have a single vision that you're going after?
We have a vision. It's about execution for us. That's all it is. If we execute, we're going to be in a really great position. The way I think about competition is they're useful as a way to learn. If I could have someone else experimenting, and I don't have to invest everything into experimentation, and I can learn things from things that are working or not, I am very happy to have other people out there spending money testing and validating ideas.
Yes.
That's how I look at it.
And what's your vision for growth? Do you want to be you want to go public?
I mean, I want to build I want to build a new recruiter. I want every company that's hiring, that's growing, to have Wendy as a recruiter. I want every candidate or every person, every professional to have Wade as a career advisor, helping them to.
So what is the actual difference between Wade and Wendy?
So Wade, we still have in like a private beta. We haven't really went live with it yet.
So it's basically Wendy at the moment.
Wendy's our focus right now. But the goal of Wade, and we've like done experimentations around Wade, but we know that we really need to focus on the Wendy side first. But Wade will be the next release for us. And that's really just enabling candidates to build a relationship with their own kind of personalized recruiter for themselves. And kind of flipping the model from company-centric, from like search to suggestion. People have to search for jobs now, leaving them feeling uninformed. But if someone was working in their corner, suggesting them opportunities, or suggesting them career advice, that's what the vision of Wade is, ultimately enabling Wendy to be a more powerful sourcer, because she has an engaged and more detailed community to be able to tap into.
Interesting.
Yep. That's the vision.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what were you, a block away? 2 blocks away?
I think so.
All right, so here's a question that I ask everybody on the show. How do you think you've grown as an entrepreneur in this process?
Oh my God. So many ways. I mean, the first thing I would probably say is the best skill I've developed is I think just a practice. I started meditating about 3 years ago, and I think that was really transformative for me. To just become conscious and aware of my own thoughts. To be able to kind of realize when thoughts were becoming stories which weren't built on foundational facts, and to be able to catch that and bring myself back to the reality of the facts to make informed decisions. I think that was probably the most transformative skill set that I could use as a foundation to grow.
Yeah.
Because from there, I mean, everything else, you learn tactics, you learn industries, you learn marketing and sales and all of these kind of things. These things you develop through hiring great people, working next to great people, reading, doing, but like you need a foundation. Like in my early career, I was incredibly reactive, and really not in touch with controlling my gut. And now I can listen to my gut and my instinct and have like kind of more of a conscious analysis of what I'm feeling and process that into and like separate it from what I'm thinking, and then make a decision with those two things understood as what they are.
So maybe you become more self-aware of when you're being reactive.
100%.
And you're like, oh, I'm in fight or flight mode. This is not the right state in which to make a decision.
Yep, and then the ability to pull yourself out of that and take a moment to make that decision before reacting. That was probably the biggest skill that I'd probably say I developed or grew as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think it happens at different ages, but it seems to happen in the 30s. That kind of,
Totally.
Self-control.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. It just comes into play all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like being proactive instead of reactive is so. Like I had an email come to me yesterday, and I knew if I responded to it, and like I just think the result, they would have reacted even further. So I just like put it on send this morning at 8 a.m.
Great idea. But it's like, these things, like, so I have a coach. I've had coaches also throughout the last few years.
Yeah.
To help me grow.
Well, we've had an entrepreneur on this show who used to be a coach.
Yeah, I believe in it to my fullest. I think actually every entrepreneur should have one. But when I was, one of the things I also learned, which kind of like helped me to understand, like to also double down on, meditation and mindfulness, was like, I used to, when I was early in my career, if I wasn't working tactically, then I'd feel guilty. But like, what I realized and what kind of my coach told me is like, if you're working on yourself, that is work, because it's going to pay dividends on your company and on your job. So when I would go and take a walk and just think, or be mindful for a moment, or meditate. It started to resonate that this was me working on my company.
Yeah. Well, Drew, thank you so much.
Nah, this was fun.
And so go check out now, is it wadeandwendy.ai?
wadeandwendy.ai.
And can you engage with it on Slack?
So we're an enterprise chatbot, or also mid-market. So if you're a growing, if you're a growing company, really trying to hire, source talent, getting a ton of applicants, you have to screen talent, check out the website, contact us. We're really helping teams recruit great talent effectively and at scale.
There you go. So thank you so much, Drew.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah.